In today's world, a lot of people aren't doing well. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're drowning in debt. And it's getting worse, and it has been getting worse year after year for decades. For decades, the cost of living has been going up at a higher rate than wages. And every time that happens, every time the cost of living goes up higher than wages at a faster rate, people get poorer, people are able to afford less. And this has been happening for a long time. People in the 1970s, young people, it was easier for them to go out on their own and get a home than it was for people in the 80s. And people in the 80s, it was easier to do than people in the 90s. And for young people in the 90s, it was easier to get their own home than people in the 2000s, and so on. And so we've been in this cycle, and now we're at a breaking point because just so many people, more and more people, a higher percentage, living paycheck to paycheck and drowning in debt. And so this has led to a lot of people attacking capitalism. But is capitalism really the problem? And I've noticed these people usually begin by a very one-dimensional and sometimes rather odd definition of what capitalism is. I saw person start off saying, well, capitalism means assets are going to go up at a higher rate than wages. But it used to be companies considered their employees as their greatest asset. And it used to be as the company's value went up, the employees were right there going up with it. And also, you have to understand that these definitions have been around for a long time. And when people created the term capitalism, did they have any idea of what today's world would be? Any idea of what today's world would be as far as technology, as far as globalization, as far as targeted marketing based on Google searches? Any idea of globalization and the fact that in 2008, the public bailed out private banks and basically subsidized and basically for their risk, socialized the risk of private companies. So to attack capitalism is kind of like to think of capitalism in today's world, but the people who came up with the terms would have no idea of what we're going through today. And I'm going to get into some of that more deeper. Also, I think kind of something to compare that train of thought to. Imagine in 1972 talking to the developer of the video game Pong and talking to them about online gaming, talking to them about World of Warcraft. They would have no understanding, no concept of what you were talking about. So once again, when these terms were created, did these people have any idea of what the world would be now? But let's talk about capitalism as far as the traditional definition. And this is the definition I found on Google, and I'm not seeing any issues with this definition. This was my understanding, and I'm somebody in my mid-50s, so I'm not seeing anything crazy here. Capitalism is an economic system where private individuals or corporations own the means of production and businesses operate for a profit. Now notice it doesn't say maximum profit, it says profit, because if you have a business that loses money constantly, how are you going to stay in business? Key features include private property, a market economy driven by supply and demand, competition among businesses, and the freedom for individuals to make their own economic choices. And I think the people attacking capitalism with their kind of one-dimensional definition, they're really missing those key components of competition among businesses, meaning a free market and freedom for individuals to make their own economic choices. Does anybody believe we have a free market? Does anybody believe that's what we have now? A free market? I'm going to get more into that. The government's role is typically limited to protecting property rights and maintaining an orderly marketplace, where they've certainly failed in maintaining an orderly marketplace. So let's get into these core principles. Private ownership, Profit motive, and this is where, a lot of people, hey, this is evil. The primary goal of businesses to generate profit for their owners and investors. Competition, businesses compete with each other for customers, which can lead to innovation and efficiency. I would argue we don't have competition. If you go into a grocery store, down the cereal aisle, and there's 100 different types of cereal, but they're all owned by the same company, that's not competition. When people got angry at Bud Light and they said, well, I'm not going to drink Bud Light, I'm going to drink this beer. Well, that beer is owned by the same parent company. Oh, well, okay, I'm going to drink this beer. That beer is also owned by the same parent company. And what has changed in today's world? We have these giant parent companies. We have these conglomerates. We have these entities that run hundreds of corporations. And then even above that, there's this level of control. All these corporations are doing everything exactly the same way across every single one of them. When we got into the DEI craze, every single HR department created a DEI division. Every single company did this, and they did it immediately. If you had independent, autonomous companies, then some would be adopting it, some would be not adopting it. You would have differences. When every corporation is doing the same exact thing, that means what you have is some kind of monopoly. There is some kind of hidden, perverted monopoly that's controlling everything. You don't have competition when every corporation is doing the same thing. And that gets into the market economy. Prices, production, and distribution are largely determined by interactions between buyers and sellers in a free market. Well, how much is driven by demand? When you look at these food companies that decided to put toxic waste into our food supply because they made food a certain color, was that driven by demand? Was that consumers saying, hey, we want poison in our food that cause cancer, that cause behavior issues in children? That's what we demand. When these companies are engaging in shrinkflation, when they're shrinking their packages so you're getting less of the product, when they're changing the formulas and putting in cheaper ingredients, is that coming from demand? Is that what people are demanding? And well, with competition, okay, well, I'm a company and I'm going to compete by not doing this. Every company is doing it. There is no competition. It's an illusion. We don't have a market-driven economy. So I would argue, I don't know what the hell to call what we have, but to say it's capitalism, and certainly is the way that people defined capitalism decades ago without having any idea of the modern world we're living in, this is not capitalism. Now, there's people pushing socialism. I think that's naive to say that, oh, we've got greedy, incompetent people in the private sector, but you don't have greedy, incompetent people working for government? You really think that control, switching that control is going to be better for us? So what has to be done? Well, we have to drastically lower prices. We need to reverse the trend. We need to keep wages where they are, and if they're going up 3% a year, whatever it is, keep them where we are, keeping that rate. Cost of living, we need to drop 25% across the board. Rents have to go down 25%. Housing prices need to go down 25%. And as a homeowner, that'll hurt me. For people that just refinanced, that'll hurt them. But it's got to be done. There has to be regulation to stop asset companies from buying properties. How did that help us when asset companies bought single-family homes, especially starter homes? How did that help we the people, and why didn't our representatives stop that from happening? The young people that were going to get a starter home Had they gotten that starter home, they would have started a family. They would have started to have kids. Instead, that home was taken away from them. Private companies came in, we're going to make an offer that you can't match. No contingencies, not even an inspection. We're going to take these properties, and by doing this, we're going to raise prices beyond what you can do. How did that benefit us? That stole from the future generations. How many babies would these young people have had they had the opportunity to get this starter home that we no longer have? How much of the future generation have we lost because of this? So obviously we need regulation to stop that from happening. Food prices need to go down 25%. Car insurance. Congress should subpoena the executives of these large car insurance companies and saying, why did car insurance double in the last 5 years? During COVID, millions of people worked from home. You had less cars on the road. These car insurance companies were making a ton of money. So why did they all double their price? And where's the competition when every single one is doubling their price? Where's the competition? What we have now is a perverted monopoly. And what is the answer? Well, maybe we take BlackRock, maybe we take these other companies, maybe we smash them into 1,000 pieces. Maybe that's the answer. And then are politicians going to do that? Politicians that are owned by these companies? I'm not sure what the answer is. To say socialism is the answer, I think is naive. If you tax these corporations more and have more money going to government, that's not a guarantee that it's going to go to the people. So what we have isn't working, but I would say focus on policies. Forget about definitions of terms, but our representatives lowering the cost of living 25%, keeping wages, and keeping employment where they are now. We have companies making record profits that are getting rid of U.S. workers for workers overseas, or firing workers and replacing them with AI. And that's another part of this. These data centers that are given a discount on electricity and then everybody else's rates go up, that should be the opposite. Data centers should be paying double, and they should be causing electric prices for consumers to be going down, not up. How is that helping anyone? It's such a mess. And these data centers, they're huge, they're ugly, they cause noise pollution. Where they're being built, they're lowering property value. And then on top of it, you're going to increase people's electricity costs. Utilities need to come down 25%. Insurance, the cost of living's got to be cut. And whatever policies need to be put in place to do that, that's what needs to be done. That's what our representatives need to do, because we're on course where things are going to break. We can't continuously have the cost of living go up higher than wages. There's a breaking point, and we're either almost, I can't believe we didn't get to the breaking point a year or 2 or 3 years ago, but you can't go on this course. We have to reverse. We have to get cost of living cut at 25%, keeping wages and employment where they are. You need that to get people out of poverty, to save the middle class. That's what has to be done, and whatever way to do that, enact those policies. Anyway, that's my take on it. Just something that's been rattling in my brain for a while, especially seeing these people, oh, capitalism's the boogeyman, capitalism's evil, all our problems are because of capitalism. It's such a naive, one-dimensional view of the reality. And so is there a solution? Oh, socialism, government control. Oh, government control always works out wonderful. Yeah, but I don't know what the solution is. but we have to do nothing. We have to do something, and for the people suffering, for the people that can't afford anything, that are miserable. Well, of course, socialism looks appealing, and politicians can talk about how wonderful capitalism is all day long. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if young people can't move out of their parents, if they can't afford to be independent, if they can't afford to have some pride, have some hope. I mean, whatever we have isn't working. It's killing us. And the solution, we need representatives to represent us, not themselves, not conglomerates, but to represent us. And something has to be done. There has to be focus on this because we're headed off a cliff. Anyway, that's my take on it. Please share yours. Until next time.